Coming out today to celebrate Earth Week. I think it's great you guys have a whole week to do this, but obviously we should probably be celebrating this every day. It's incredibly important to realize all the things that are going on in our planet and taking actions to try to make this world a better place. So I'm going to talk a little bit about one of the solutions I think that we can move towards to try to find a better way to live more sustainably, and I call it the collaborative economy. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the philosophy around that, the various social and technological and environmental pressures that are going to be shaping the future and the future economy as I see it. And then tell you guys about Swidget, which is the new social media platform that I'm going to be releasing here in a couple weeks that I hope will help us start to tackle some of these solutions by building stronger communities and local economies. So, and then at the end I'm going to open up to questions. So if you guys, anything comes up that I'm talking about that you want to discuss, jot it down, make a mental note, and we can talk about it at the end. Alright, so I'm going to bring us back first to here. This is the Hudson River Valley, and it wasn't too long ago that we all lived in villages and tribes and other types of communities, and somehow without Amazon and Wall Street and Walmart and FedEx, we managed to support ourselves just fine. But then things started getting bigger and moving faster, and we started bringing in resources from further and further away until we ended up in this current state of affairs where most of the things that we own don't even come from our own country, let alone our cities or towns. And meanwhile, the community units that used to support us have largely vanished, and instead we're being propped up by this system of globalization. And while I do admit that at times globalization is pretty convenient and has its advantages, we're also running into the unfortunate fact that it is destroying our planet and a lot of the people that live here and the other organisms we share this earth with. And I don't really think that's an exact, globalization, here we go. So you guys all know what that is. I don't think this is an exaggeration. If you really examine where we are, it's pretty grim. We've got climate change, which is rapidly reconfiguring the world as we know it in ways that we don't fully understand, but we know are going to be really bad and only going to get worse as we continue to dump carbon into the atmosphere. Our water's in serious trouble. The oceans are suffering from acidification, pollution from agriculture, from oil, from waste products. The coral reefs are dying. They're being overfished, and the fresh water is not really doing much better, and is also suffering attacks from industry, as we know here in New York, as we try to fight off hydrofracking. The forests are disappearing, and all the biodiversity that they contain, most of the original forests on this planet have vanished and are continuing to be cut down. And meanwhile, the soils beneath them are also eroding and washing away, and that's kind of inconvenient because they grow all our food. And then there's the toxins that are everywhere in our water, in the land, in the air, and unfortunately in each one of us in this room. And we don't really know exactly what their impact is going to be, but again, it's probably going to be pretty bad. And we're kind of in a big chemistry experiment right now. So these, unfortunately, are just the environmental problems we're facing. We also run up against all this social injustice the world over. There's this economic uncertainty and troubles that we're facing. And then we have this political impasse that really leaves us little hope of finding any solutions from our government. So for the most part, I think we're going to kind of have to get out of this problem ourselves. And all these things that I'm describing, they are not unrelated. They are symptoms of a system that is on the brink of collapse. We have designed a society that cannot be sustained. All these things I mentioned, they're indicators that it has begun to fail, and it's going to continue to fail unless we significantly redesign our society, change the way we live, and start moving towards a lifestyle that is not so, is such a burden on the planet and the place we live. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us, but I'm not actually here to get you guys all freaked out. I hope you get enough of this. I hope you hear about all the problems we're facing, and I'm not going to drill them in. Instead, I'm going to come to offer you a vision for a brighter future and a way to potentially get out of a lot of these problems and start moving towards a better way of living. Now, I think if this had been 25, 30 years ago, we probably would have been pretty screwed. But in the time since then, we've come up with this little thing called the internet. And the internet really, I think, changes the game and opens up a lot of new possibilities. Now, first and foremost, we have this the internet provides us an opportunity to spread awareness, to grow movements at rates that were not possible before, and we've already seen this starting to happen, whether it be the Arab Spring or the Occupy movement or the tar sands protest, or the many petitions that I sign and maybe you sign every day that are starting to make a difference when suddenly we can get 2 million voices coming together and standing up against something. So that's really exciting. But more broadly, I think one of the things that's happening is we've had the emergence of the social web. And this is allowing us to connect and collaborate and cooperate in ways that were not possible before. And I think this is just the beginning, really. I think the social web is going to evolve into the collaborative web. And this is going to allow us to not just network and share our stories and our lives with each other, but actually to really get stuff done, to band together and work together and fight a lot of the problems that we're facing and come up with some really beautiful solutions and share them all with each other. So these changes are already happening fast, but it's only going to accelerate as we rapidly approach a world where we're all carrying around the internet in our pockets. It's going to, again, really open up a lot of new possibilities for changing the way we do things in ways that just were not possible currently or 20 years ago. So, but what do we really need to do to try to fix some of these things and work towards a better future? Well, I think obviously there's a lot of work to be done, and clearly getting a fuel source that is not changing our climate is pretty important. But aside from that, I think that rebuilding our communities and strengthening our local economies is one of the most impactful things we can do. If we can learn to remember, it's not learn because we used to do this, of course, but buy and sell and share and trade and rent and give with the people around us and reconnect with our communities, with our neighborhoods. I think it's going to lead to some really exciting possibilities. And this is not something that is an abstract, unattainable goal, but it's actually something that's already underway. We're undergoing a cultural movement. As you can see, there's a rapid changes from 2011 to 2012 in who we trust. And we're increasingly trusting each other, the people around us, rather than the brands and corporations that have kind of defined the last 30, 50 years. Where if you look at people, these stats on where people obtain their services, their goods, from 2010 to 2020, we see a pretty significant change. People getting goods from traditional retail service providers, or to getting them through peer-to-peer networks, or when rather than buying things, moving towards a system where we're renting and sharing and trading rather than outright ownership. So this is a shift that is already happening. It's well under its way, and we're going to be moving away from our legacy of overconsumption and ownership, and towards this system that's increasingly going to be defined by sharing and access. And this movement is being termed by a lot of people in the industry as collaborative consumption, to kind of reflect the fact that we are, instead of individually buying everything, we are sharing, we're working together, maybe a neighborhood owns a car instead of every house in that street. Other people are calling this the sharing economy. I really like to refer to it as the peer-to-peer economy, because it reflects the fact that we are going to be supporting each other, doing business with each other, connecting with each other. So we're also, obviously, well, maybe this isn't so obvious, but the U.S. dollar is, whether it's how long it's going to be around or be as effective as it currently is sort of uncertain. I'm not really going to get into the economics of that, but we do have other sort of emerging ways of currencies, so to speak. We have virtual currencies like the Bitcoin, this Producia, which a friend in Richmond is working on. Obviously, there are things locally. We have the Ithaca Hours. My friend Dan, who is here, we were working on a meal sharing program where you could get credits for serving meals to other people that you could then basically cash in to dine with other people, which is really a way of another way of kind of leveraging a skill or an asset or something that you have without relying on money. So we're going to be moving away from this sort of money system. Things like time banking as well, I think, are going to be rising. So there's going to be a lot of changes. They're going to be happening really fast. And the question is, what's going to happen? And I think it's going to be the emergence of this collaborative economy that I was telling you about, this peer-to-peer economy that we're going to be doing business with each other, connecting with our communities, and so I want to give you a couple examples of what this is looking like early on. We're, again, very much in the early stages of this, but how many of you in this audience have heard of Airbnb? All right, we got a little less than half of you, but I think if we're doing this next year, maybe most of you in the room will have heard of it. It's a peer-to-peer housing marketplace that effectively allows anyone with an extra space, an extra room, to rent it out to a would-be traveler. And this is really changing the way people travel. It's going to disrupt the hotel industry, and it's exciting because if you're going somewhere to visit an area, you now have all these new neighborhoods, different places you can stay in that are more diverse and more sustainable. You're not dealing with a hotel room where all the cleaning and overhead of doing that. You're just staying in somebody's extra room. And meanwhile, if you do have an extra space, you're now able to leverage this asset that was basically sitting around unused, and it now becomes this extra revenue stream. So it's a really great example of how collaborative consumption, this collaborative economy, is going to allow us to tap into these latent assets that we have. In this case, it's space, but we might also be talking about time or possessions or land, whatever it may be. So this right here, this map represents a it's a density map of places where you can stay in Airbnb in Manhattan. You can see already, this is out of date, I think it's almost 6 months old now, but you can stay in almost every block of the city through this service, and it's vastly cheaper if you're staying as a traveler, and again, it's very, it also allows you to maybe meet somebody when you're traveling. You're not just staying in an anonymous hotel room, you're staying in a family's house, and maybe you'll go out to dinner or they'll give you a tour. So it's a more social, interactive, community building way to travel. Another example, in the future, I think obviously some of us are going to still own cars, but other of us, when we need to get somewhere, just going to whip out our smartphones, find somebody on our block that is willing to rent us their car for a few hours, take it out, bring it back. You pay some sort of small rental fee, but it's going to your neighbor rather than a company. Or even better, perhaps you're going to find somebody that's already going in your direction, like which Zimride helps you do, and engage in ride sharing. And so fewer of us people are going to own cars, and those who do are going to suddenly have this new way, again, to leverage this asset. The average get-around user, which is a service that's emerging in San Francisco right now, is making $950 a month renting out their car, which ultimately is a great example of something that really just sits around unused 98–99% of its time. All this production and manufacturing that goes into it, and we hardly use it, so why not share it? Another really cool thing is peer-to-peer lending, which is going to, again, just disrupt the way that we finance things, shift power away from banks and financial institutions and into people and communities. So if you're looking to get some money for something, to improve your house or to go to school or to start a business, you're going to be able to basically crowdsource this from the people in your community, from the people on the internet, get loans directly from people, and this has worked out incredibly well so far. We're seeing much lower interest rates as someone taking out a loan, and much lower default rates because you're more responsible when you're borrowing money from other people rather than some faceless bank. And again, you guys may be familiar with these. These are crowd funding campaigns in the sense of like a gift economy where you help raise money for a project you want to do. The internet helps you out, and you can get gifts back in return. Now, this is how we've been doing it for the last few years. But the Senate or the U.S. Congress just passed a provision in the latest Jobs Act, which deregulates, changes the regulations about public offerings. It allows you to basically crowdfund and give out equity in what the business you're trying to start through an online platform. And this is really exciting because it's going to allow people who want to invest money to do it in the people around them, in the businesses in their community, rather than only having the option of pretty much right now as it is to invest in Wall Street. So this is a really exciting thing that could have a massive impact on sort of all the problems with consolidating power and wealth into one very small sector of the population. Gitsy, this is a startup out of Berlin that is really, I'm excited about because I think in general we need to be shifting away from consuming and more towards like having experiences. And this is an experience, a peer-to-peer experience marketplace. And basically this allows anybody to create some sort of tour or experience or activity to share with others and to put up there and to offer for a, in this case it's for a fee, but in other cases it might be for barter or something else. And this is really cool if you're traveling to a new city and you want to get a local perspective on doing something. Maybe somebody coming into Ithaca might take a tour and get to make some wine, or I bring them to a tour of some cool swimming holes or something, like tap into the local knowledge that we have, share with other travelers or people that live around here. Just a few other examples of some of these emerging businesses within the realm of collaborative consumption. Key Wi-Fi is another startup which basically, we live in very tight areas. For some reason we all have, or most of us all have our own internet service, and does that really make sense from a financial perspective? Not really. You could probably share this with the people around you. And so increasingly maybe you're going to either rent your internet from your neighbor, or maybe you're going to be renting out to other people and actually profiting off having internet by charging your neighbors a small fee, or working out some sort of non-monetary arrangement for those of you that want to go that route. Good Karma is if you have a child, they grow up fast, they go through clothes really quickly. There's a lot of waste and a lot of opportunity for people to share in this department. So this is a thing where you basically subscribe to a service, and every 6 months or whenever your child grows out of their current clothing, you return it, get a new batch of other clothing that's been cycled or upcycled and repaired, and anything that is no longer sort of fit for remaining in this active stream gets repurposed into bibs and napkins and other things. So TaskRabbit is a sort of an errand running service, and I think this is going to be an interesting part of the future economy. I mean, if you're unemployed and you've got a lot of extra time on your hands, you can effectively help other people with the things they don't have time for. It's outsourcing tasks and jobs to the people around you, and I think that's going to be a big part moving forward and open up new opportunities for people that previously didn't really have them. And Landshare is another just example, sort of like it's like Airbnb, but it's for garden space. So if you've got extra room in your yard and you're not going to garden there, well, probably there's somebody nearby that would love that space, and they can come over and garden, use your land, and they can either pay for it or you can get a percentage of vegetables or whatever arrangement you work out. So these are a couple examples of this. And this is just a little graphic that shows sort of the transition that we're going through. Over here, where we have our car dealers and manufacturers, that's sort of the old model, and then we're moving towards this car sharing model. Ithaca Car Share is a great example of that, where one central entity kind of controls the cars and then allows other people access to them. But that actually requires a lot of overhead, because if you want to do that, you need to buy a lot of cars. Whereas actually we all have, there's thousands of cars in Ithaca that are not being used at any given time, so that was the rise of the peer-to-peer ride sharing I kind of talked about, but this peer-to-peer rental where we're basically renting from each other because there's already all these unused cars that are sitting around. So and these examples I've been talking about are going through rapid growth. This center one is Airbnb, and this is kind of one of the reasons why I think you'll probably have heard about it in a couple of years. It started in 2009, they just did a few 100,000 rentals. In 2011, they're up to 4 million, and I think they've almost already gotten to that this year. So it's rapidly growing. And this over here is a peer-to-peer lending. Again, just started out 56 million in 2003. By 2013, it's expected to be a $5 billion industry. So that's going to have a major impact, again, on a traditional lending and financing. And then a few stats I think I told you already. The bottom one, someone did a study on the average U.S. home has, if you add up like the cars and the space and the DVDs and the land, has on average $42,000 of assets that they could leverage and make use of by tapping into this collaborative economy. So all these examples are just really the tip of the iceberg, the beginning of a movement that I think is going to rapidly grow. And once we establish a peer-to-peer economy of critical mass and get enough people within a community or a space engaging in this sort of thing, it's really going to, I think, fundamentally change the way our society works, the economic and social landscape of the community. And we're going to be moving towards a world where people, instead of, or not everyone, but a lot of people, instead of holding down their regular jobs, are going to be supporting themselves, their family, by cooperating with their neighbors, by renting out their extra space, by running these errands for people. Whatever it is, these different examples I just said, they'll cobble them together and find ways to meet their needs without having jobs or needing as much money. And I think that it's going to allow things like micro-enterprise to flourish, and the regrowth of things like neighborhood guilds, where people kind of organize and share activities in ways that are sort of connecting and helping each other. Again, like bartering, worker-owned cooperatives, local currencies, as I mentioned. All these things are going to come together and really shift the way that we live, the way our economy works. And I think it's all going to lead to the next economic revolution. We had a revolution 150 years ago that was fueled by our access to cheap energy. And I think we're about on the brink of the next economic revolution, but ours is going to be fueled by technology and social media and community. Right, so this is, I'm going to go back for 1 second. So this is, I'm really excited about all this stuff. I think it's a tremendous possibility. But it's not just a sort of an intellectual abstract exercise for me. This has actually become my life's work. I've spent the last 15 months trying to develop a platform that will facilitate this future. It's called Swidget, and I'm going to be releasing it in a couple weeks here, and I think it will serve as a nexus for this future community, for this future economy. One central hub for local commerce, for collaboration and communication. I see Swidget as acting as a virtual switchboard that connects cities and towns and neighborhoods and dorms and apartments with the wealth of goods and services and skills and ideas and people and organizations and activities that surround us that we currently don't really have access to. I mean, we know some of them, but there's really a deficit in being aware of all the amazing things that are around us and being able to connect easily to them. So I believe Swidget's going to sort of take all the amazing tools that we have on the internet to share and discover and collaborate and curate and organize and communicate. I'm trying to take all of them and bring them into a local space and apply them to the problem, the aforementioned problem of trying to connect better with the resources and opportunities around us. And I'm really excited about this, and again, it's going to be coming out shortly, and I'm going to go into some more detail about it, which this is one of the first times I've had an opportunity to really flesh this idea out to a crowd of people. So to start with, I'm going to provide a little context by discussing some of the platforms you guys are familiar with. This is Craigslist, of course, and Craigslist right now is the de facto destination for community commerce. That's where you would likely go if you had something you wanted to sell to other people around you, or you were looking to find something. I guess those are kind of its main uses: ride sharing, bartering, finding jobs, and housing, of course, as well. And it does a pretty good job, but unfortunately Craigslist has not grown with the web, it has not evolved, and it also has this sort of creepiness factor that keeps it from developing a critical mass. A lot of people do not feel comfortable with this. It has not evolved with the social web, and it is not, and as a result, it's really holding us back. It's not the platform it could be, and if it were more feature-rich and integrated into these social tools, I think there would be a lot more things we could do with it, a lot more people would be using it, and we already have more of this peer-to-peer economy I was talking about. So it also, I mean, has various other problems, like the organization is not great. Trying to put something into one category is, I think, very old-fashioned. Things aren't really always that black and white. The search isn't so great. You know, if you find something you want, you can't really bookmark it or keep track of it. And often you do find something you're excited about it, and it's actually like already sold because you know the stuff is expired and no one can bother to take it out. So I think there's a lot to be improved on this model. Facebook. How many of you have heard of Facebook? All of you, right? Okay, so Facebook obviously is doing a lot better of achieving this critical mass, but it also isn't really the platform we need for this collaborative economy, for a marketplace. It's a social network where you go to connect with your friends, to share stories and pictures, to make witty comments. Maybe you pick up some news and find a little bit about what's going around you, but ultimately, it's really limited by the fact that it's a private social network. Like if we're talking about building an economy, you don't want to only be able to interact with the people that are your friends. And you don't, as a business, you don't want to only be interacting with the people that have liked your page. So that's really limiting. And my main problem with Facebook is that there is a lot of valuable content that is added into it, but there is absolutely no way to track or organize or store or curate any of it, or even just find it. Like if I wanted to see all the things that are happening, around Earth Day, like it just wouldn't work. And if I wanted to see all the videos posted on climate change, I just can't do that. And if I wanted to see just which local businesses are most liked or most active, like I can't do that. So they have all this information and people are using it tremendously, but they're not allowing us to really harness it or rediscover it. It just goes, it disappears, you can't find stuff again. So that's another major flaw in terms of becoming a marketplace. And it also has, in a different way, a creepiness factor, in the sense that a lot of people don't feel comfortable with it because it's too public and there's too much information shared about you. And again, it's about 55% penetration in the United States, slightly higher in other places. Varies from community to community. In Ithaca, it's probably higher because of the schools, but still 50-60% is not really enough. We need to, I think, if we really want to build this thriving new economy, we need to get more people on board than that. So Twitter is maybe the closest yet because it is this public network. It does allow you to find people and ideas and information that you wouldn't otherwise be exposed to because it's broader. But it also doesn't allow you to kind of scale that down. And I can't just see all the Ithaca tweets unless we all agree to add that hashtag there. And I certainly can't break it down to smaller levels like Ithaca College or West Campus of Cornell or that sort of thing. And it's also limiting, 140 characters. That's good if you're used to, if you just want to convey short, sweet things, and if you're of the younger generation that's used to texting and communicating things very shortly, briefly, but ultimately there's a lot you can't really say on Twitter, or a lot of content you can't really add in there. And it just as a culture, as does Facebook, it's more about sharing information and cool things you found on the internet, rather than expressing the ways we can help each other and what I need and what I'm what I have to offer and that sort of information, which is what I'm going to be trying to extract out of the community with Swidget. A few others, just to briefly mention, Meetup allows you to organize events in your community and build groups around specific interests. Etsy is a peer-to-peer marketplace. If you have some craft or art or something of that nature that you want to sell to other people, this is currently the kind of marketplace that we use. Wikipedia is obviously a really powerful tool. It allows us, we're collectively, as a group, organizing information and bringing it together to share and be able to access, which is really powerful. And then Pinterest is sort of this emerging tool that we're using for curation, which again, is a major something that Twitter and Facebook and Craigslist all lack the ability to take all the information people are putting in there and to organize it in meaningful ways and share that with other people. So what I'm trying to do with Swidget is to take all the best parts of these things and again bring them into one platform that is specifically designed to serve this role as the hub for the community. It's a one-stop destination for connecting with everything around you, the people, the ideas, etc. So I'm not really going to go through this, but it's basically, again, integrating parts of all the things. Oh, again, Yelp I didn't touch on, but that's sort of the way we, maybe not so much here, but in other areas, connect with local businesses, which is something else that is not really done so well on any of the other platforms I mentioned. So trying to take all these things and bring them together, and that's kind of a rough approximation of Swidget. And you can see from this little Venn diagram, for those of you who aren't familiar with Venn diagrams, they're kind of representations of basically this big circle is Swidget and all the things that it can do, and then these other ones, Facebook, Twitter, Craigslist, those are their current roles. And I'm sort of illustrating that I think Swidget can fill most of the roles of these existing websites in one place. And I think that is kind of important. I mean, I know we're all attached to these different websites, and they do have a lot of utility, but I think we have like platform fatigue, and it's each additional new tool that comes out, it's harder to maintain a profile and establish trust, which is really going to be an important thing in this peer-to-peer economy, is being able to trust the people that you don't know. So I think it's harder and harder to get these new, to establish new websites, and I think there's a certain utility with so much time we're already spending on the internet and all these emerging sites, and then all these exciting ones I just told you about. Like, I don't know if we want to have 30 different websites to run this economy. I like the fact that we have Craigslist, and that's sort of the central hub for that. And I'm trying to replace that now with something that's a little more versatile, well, significantly more versatile and more social and more powerful and whatnot. So, and I don't, it's not going to, Facebook is still going to be great for connecting with your friends and doing a lot of the social stuff, and again, Facebook and Twitter for connecting to national things, because that's not something you're going to find on your local Swidget. And I'm trying to stay away from the whole personal side and dating. There are other websites that do that well. So this is just a little graphic of some of the ways that I actually foresee people using it. Again, it's just the hub for the economy, a way to connect with people, information around you, specifically events. I think that's something else that Facebook is getting a little better at, but if you really want to stay on top of the events that are happening around here, you have to be on listservs and checking the local newspapers and checking it on Facebook and various other sources. So trying to bring that all together in one place. The role that Twitter plays in being sort of a real-time way to exchange information about what's going on around you, I think is something Swidget can do, and really being able to connect not just with, say, Ithaca or New York City, but being able to scale it down to connect with Ithaca College or a specific dorm or Fall Creek or your apartment building. It's again, curating, discovering, sharing local resources. There's so many of them. There's not a one place where we find these. And again, if you really wanted to just stay in touch with your community and be aware of all the things around you and the people and the activities, you really would need to use most, if not all, of the websites I mentioned before. And it's just not really efficient. I think we can do better than that. So just a few other little things problems that I like to, hoping to solve with Swidget. Post management, when you post something on Facebook, you can't edit it, you can't disable it, it's basically post, and if you make a mistake, you have to delete it and repost it. I'd like you to be able to not only edit it, but say you're a business and you've got a seasonal thing you're offering, to be able to take it and disable it for the winter when it's not relevant, and then bring it back online without having to repost it. And again, I lost my train of thought. So it's a public network, so again, you can connect with people that aren't just your friends, which I think is important for building this economy. I talked a lot about organizing and filtering content. And again, trying to bring together all the community, not just people and businesses, but also not-for-profits, communities, and the local government. I'm hoping to engage them as well and make this as a place where you can connect with them if you so choose. And being able to customize your experience a little bit more. Facebook makes assumptions about what content you might want to see, and Swidget may offer that as well, but I think people may also, there's a lot of different ways you could use it, and if you want to customize your experience and what stuff you are most interested in, I'm going to provide a lot of tools to do that. Again, I'm really excited about not only curating individually and being able to organize stuff that you find at your end, but to then take a collection that you're populating and allow maybe ICES to, everyone in ICES can add to this collection, or everyone in Ithaca. So then you can take something, restaurants that serve local food, and then we can all just collectively build them together and get that information together in one place. So it's, again, just trying to take all the stuff that we don't really know and bring it online and organize it. Events, scalable, and I touched on this before, but again, trying to fill it with, change the culture of how people use it. This is a social media, again, not for connecting with friends, but more for putting the information that can benefit us all up there and sharing it and organizing. So this, I don't know how well you can see this, but this is a mock-up of what Swidget is going to look like, does look like. Again, it's organized very much like Facebook or Twitter. It's got a feed. You can take things, you can share them, you can collect them, you can edit them, flag them, comment them, recommend them, that sort of thing. You can see topics that are trending, break it down by specific places if you want to browse Trumansburg or West Campus, see your collections. You know, you can have communities and the custom feeds I think are really cool. This is one of the ways that you're going to be able to customize stuff. Say you're really interested in entrepreneurship, then you can sort of aggregate all the tags and people that are discussing that into a custom feed on entrepreneurship that you checking on you know, anytime you're interested in that topic, or if you're about to go out dancing for the evening, you know, maybe you've aggregated a feed that is all the local dance clubs and people that are talking about dancing, and be able to easily access that information without having to search for it. So I think that's all I really need to say about that. Right, so what I'm aiming for here, again, I'm going to be releasing this platform in about 2 weeks, and what I'm aiming for is to replace Craigslist for starters. I think that, again, it's served its purpose, and it's time to let go of it. It's, again, very limiting in what it can do. It is actually, by many estimations, already on its way out. This is its usage graph. It's kind of peaked and declined, and the ways that people have traditionally used it are starting to be replaced piece by piece, again, by some of the things I mentioned before. You know, maybe you're finding people to do your jobs and little odd tasks on TaskRabbit, and doing housing and Airbnb and ride sharing and Zimride. So people are already starting to migrate away to these tools that are providing, doing this better. And this trend is, I think, just going to continue. So I'm very hopeful that, as far as I know, no community has supplanted Craigslist and replaced it with something else, and I'm hopeful that Ithaca may be the first one, and sort of help us build this more just and sustainable society, this more resourceful economy, and trying to, you know, shift us the way we live. It's in a way that is just more fun and not so impactful on the planet. And I think that we really need to make that shift, because we've designed a society that consumes way more resources per person than exist on this planet. We've run up against this wall of climate change, and this realization that the fuel source, the energy that we predicated mostly all of our economy on, is actually really compromising our future in kind of scary ways. So we need to change our plan. I hope you guys all know this graph. Probably one of the most important things we should all be seeing every day. We really need to change our plan, and we need to change it pretty quickly because we don't have a lot of time. And I know that's can be kind of a scary proposition, because this is comfortable and we're used to it, and it's you know, it's what we know. But I really like to argue that there is not a lot of reason to fight this or to fear it, but rather I think we can really try to embrace it, because there ultimately is not a whole lot about this current world we live in that's worth hanging on to. You know, we've got certain conveniences, luxuries, but ultimately as a people we are historically unhappy, unhealthy, we work too much, we play too little, we're not connecting with the people around us as much as we used to, as much as we should be. And meanwhile, the system that is failing us as a people is also causing irreparable harm to the planet, and really you know, fundamentally altering our biosphere for thousands or millions of years to come. So it's a system that's failing in pretty much every way that I can imagine, unless you're, you know, one of the 1% or a corporate CEO that's loving it. So I think if this were a CEO, we probably would have fired it long ago, globalization. If globalization were a politician, I hope we would not re-elect it at the next time it comes up for office. And if this were your partner and you were dating globalization, I hope you would have dumped him a while ago and moved on to something better. And I think that is exactly what we need to do. Dump globalization. Oh yeah, there it is. Balance in every way. dump globalization and move on and redesign our society, build an economy that allows us to thrive within our means, a way of living that allows us to have more while consuming less, that encourages us to sort of spend our resources in acquiring experiences and services rather than buying a whole bunch of crap we don't need. And I think that if we can move beyond this obsession with GDP and growth and start measuring the success of our designs, of our economy, of our society in things like resourcefulness and resiliency and fulfillment, it's going to go a long way towards building a future that allows us to grow communities instead of corporations. And I think technology is really going to afford us the opportunity to do this. The social web, the collaborative web, the mobile internet are going to open up all these new possibilities. And we're going to be able to do this all very soon. And in the case of Swidget, we're going to be able to do it right here in Ithaca in the coming weeks. And I think that if we, in this community, embrace this new economy, adopt this new way of living, I believe it has the potential to spread. And as other communities, other places see how beautiful it is, the really positive changes that are happening as a result, and if it does spread and start being picked up in other places, I think it's going to start a movement that will go a long way towards tackling a lot of the problems that I outlined in the beginning of the speech that you're all well aware of, and helping us to craft just a more hopeful and bright future that we can be excited about and full of possibilities and opportunities. So that's it, and